The next session that I want to talk about is using PowerPoint over Zoom. Again, we've already had a quick question, all right, how do you do it? Is there anything anybody would specifically like me to address in this session ahead of time rather than waiting for a question at the end? Right, I don't see any raised hands or people shouting or anything at me, so I'm going to kick off. Again, as I was saying at the beginning, most of us have been using Zoom for 6-9 months or so, and ought to have got some sort of level of experience of doing presentations over Zoom. And the easiest way of doing this generally is not a particularly good way or a slick way, but what I still see most of the time is when somebody wants to run a presentation, run a PowerPoint presentation over Zoom, what they'll do is they will share their screen, and having shared their screen, we will see PowerPoint in its edit form, and then they will start the slideshow and then start to navigate through it. That's kind of clunky. It doesn't look very professional, and it also means that they don't then have access to their notes and to access the PowerPoint presentation in what is called presenter view. So I'd like to show you a few things that you can do that will help around that. So, right, you should be seeing, let's get that out of the way. You should now be seeing my screen showing PowerPoint. Right, so first off, in PowerPoint will work in a number of different ways. If you only have a single screen, if you only have a laptop with one screen, then that limits to some degree what you can do. You can't, for example, use presenter view. I'll be talking more about this in a moment, to do your presentation. I'm actually looking at the wrong PowerPoint here. This is one of my work PowerPoint presentations. So you can't use presenter view because you need more than one screen. But what you can do is, if you go from the slideshow setting to set up show, there is an option here that says browse by an individual in a window. Once I've selected this, browsed by an individual, instead of it appearing full screen, when I run this, this will appear in a small window. So
this quick tip is about using the Gallery's PPW element.
Oops. I've got some audio on this work presentation. I'm just going to quit that, and I'm going across to a different presentation. I really should have practiced, shouldn't I? Check that presentation. So we go to set up show, browse by an individual in a window, and then I run this, and what you should see is this runs in a small window. So this is not filling the whole of my screen. I have the rest of my desktop sitting behind here. And this PowerPoint is now running. So now, when I start to share my screen, I can share this running PowerPoint presentation. And I can also see my presentation and see all the rest of you. So if I show you what I am looking at, bear with me a second. This isn't working brilliantly, but there we go. So you can see I've got, let's see if I can get my finger in the right place. There's all of you, and there is my PowerPoint presentation. So I can interact with the audience while still seeing my slideshow. Let's go back to that. So that's a very, very simple little tip as a way to be able to run your PowerPoint presentation, and then I can go through this. I just click on it, I use the cursor keys and so on to move through my presentation, and I can see that. I'm going to escape that presentation now. The next very, very natty little tip, something that whatever your level of experience in PowerPoint, I'm hoping will be something that you will not know about. This is called a headless ghost monitor emulator. This is a tiny little device. These cost about $8. It is an HDMI plug. You can get VGA ones and DisplayPort ones. You plug this into your laptop, and your laptop then believes it has a second screen. So your laptop thinks it's connected to two screens. When you're doing your presentation, if you have two screens, you can do a presentation like you would do in a physical location where you have a projector that everybody is looking at and your laptop screen which is facing you, so you can see a different view. So by plugging in this headless ghost to your laptop, you can then run your presentation in presenter view. Oops, didn't need to do that. Go back to here. So if I go back and have a look at this, I will then be able to use presenter view. So make this a little bit bigger so that presenter view comes up. So over here we've got this option to use presenter view. I need to stop telling it to do that. So presenter full screen, and I can now use presenter view. So presenter view allows me to see what's coming up, to navigate, to use notes, and so on. You can only run in presenter view if you have two screens. If you've got a headless ghost, your computer believes that it has two screens. And so if I now run this presentation, bear with me a second. If I run this presentation, I've got some windows to whiz around. Microsoft unhelpfully automatically maximizes the screens.
While you are on that subject, can I ask this question from someone?
Sure, go ahead.
Can the presenter please share that headless ghost again so I can click a pic, please? Thanks.
So yeah, okay. If you just search in Google or Amazon or something, this is the device that I've got. Headless Ghost. It is what it's called. Headless Ghost Monitor Emulator.
And does the Mac have an equivalent headless ghost feature?
You could plug it into a Mac, yeah. I mean, you need to have the appropriate connector, but yeah, you could plug it into a Mac. It would do the same thing.
Yeah, correct. You have to use the appropriate connector. Like
you'd need a Lightning connector and a USB connector or something. Yeah. Right. So, this is where we start getting very clever. So that screen there is the headless ghost, and this screen here is what I'm looking at, is what is in front of me on the screen. When I start this presentation on Zoom, when I go to share screen, I will share that screen. Now I can't actually see that screen because that's a virtual screen, but I don't need to because I can see this screen. And on this screen, I can see what the audience sees here. So this is the audience view. This is the next view. I hope you can see my mouse. So this is the next slide. If I have some notes, they appear here. And I've got some other tools to animate and to do various other actions throughout the presentation. And so once the focus is on here, I can navigate through my presentation. So you can see my screen change and that screen change. And so I can do all the normal navigation, but I get very much more information so that I can see what's coming up. I can see the notes that I've written and so on. The audience will simply be seeing that screen, and indeed, like with the suggestion of running in a window, I can run this ahead of time, and as soon as I'm ready to do my presentation, I do a share screen and I share that screen. There's no going into PowerPoint, seeing it in edit mode, and so on. The other thing that I've discovered that is not widely known is that there are some keyboard shortcuts that you can use within PowerPoint that help with slide navigation and interaction. So, for example, if I'm not wanting the audience to look at my screen or focus on what is on the screen, I'm wanting them to look at me. If I hit the B key, the screen will go black. So I simply mute my screen. This is particularly effective in a physical presentation where you've got a big projector screen behind you. You can also make it go white by hitting the W key. Hitting any other key will take it out of there. What you can also do is use numbers to navigate the screens. So if I type 1 and enter, it will go to slide number 1. If I type 4 and enter, it will go to slide number 4. This is particularly useful if somebody asks you a question about a slide that you were looking at 20 minutes ago, long presentation, and you've got an outline that has slide numbers against it. You can just simply and quickly jump to that slide number by typing the number and hitting enter. An alternative way of doing that, which only works if you're in presenter view, is to click on this button here, and this will then show in presenter view all of the slides, and I can then just click on the slide that I want, and that will come up for the audience. So again, if you're having to jump backwards and forwards in your presentation, maybe you have to skip a few slides, you can do this by clicking on this button, clicking on the slide that you want to jump to, and that will then be the next slide transition. In terms of slide transitions, I like to use the space bar. Pressing the space bar will take you from one slide to the next. And I like that because it's the biggest button on the keyboard and the one I'm least likely to miss. So simply space bar will take you through the PowerPoint presentation. You can use forward arrow, backward arrow, up arrow, down arrow. You can use the enter key and so on. So these are all slide transitions or ways of getting these slides to transition. If you're at a physical presentation, you can use a laser pointer to highlight aspects of the slides. This is something that's rather more tricky to do if you're doing a virtual presentation. Now, one of the things that you could do is this. So I've set this slideshow up so that I'm superimposed over the slideshow, and then I can like point to stuff, you know, there's this bit here, but that's not ideal. An alternative way is to use the built-in laser pointer that there is within PowerPoint. So there are some tools, and I'm going to select the laser pointer tool. Having selected the laser pointer tool, you can now see on here and on that screen a small red dot on the area that I'm wanting to draw your attention to. So this is a virtual laser pointer. You might also want a pen. So using a pen, I can highlight an area like this, or I could use an actual highlighter tool and highlight something like this. So this is what you might want to be doing in a physical presentation, but you can still do this virtually, drawing people's attention to certain elements within the PowerPoint presentation. I'm a big fan of keyboard shortcuts. The keyboard shortcut for laser pointer is, not unreasonably, Control L. For pen is Control P, Control H for the highlighter, And you can also have use the eraser tool to remove these annotations. What else can you do? There are some very, very clever things that PowerPoint can do. Built into PowerPoint is the ability to subtitle your presentation. What PowerPoint is now doing is it is listening to me, it is working out what I've said, and it is translating it into French and displaying that French translation on the screen. How many of you can speak French? And tell me whether this is a decent French translation. So I speak some French. I can tell you that that it is reasonable French. I'm not sure if it is good French. I have used this for real in a work environment where we were doing some presentations to a French customer. The trainer's French wasn't brilliant. The customer's English wasn't brilliant. So the agreement is that we would do the presentation in English with French subtitles, and that worked very well. It's a very clever tool. The tool allows you to speak in a number of different languages and will translate into even more languages. And you can set this up within the PowerPoint screen. And bear with me a moment. So you can tell it what language you want to speak in and what language you want to have it translate into. Something else that PowerPoint will allow you to do is to record your presentation. That if you are trying to practice doing a presentation, you can get PowerPoint itself to record the presentation. I'm just going to end this slideshow and I'm going to go back to my main screen. So there is a tab at the top here that says recording. And if I click on that, there are some tools here allowing you to record a voiceover and then export that as a video file. The work presentation that I ran, I'd already done that because it was a thing for work, and as it started to play, the audio was playing associated with it, which was playing into my headset, which was very distracting. So this is a very simple way to make a PowerPoint presentation, turn it into video, and then share that video presentation with somebody else using the built-in recording tools. It's also possible to use PowerPoint as a background directly within Zoom. That's not a particularly, sorry, bear with me a second. Try to find the screen. Yeah. So within Zoom, as a beta function, this means it's not thoroughly reliable and it doesn't actually work that well. There is the option, you can see here the top left-hand corner, PowerPoint as a background. What you do is you go to share screen, you select advance, you pick that beta, use PowerPoint as background, then select the file that you're wanting to use as a PowerPoint background, and Zoom will turn that PowerPoint presentation in effect into a series of static slides. So you will lose the animation that's on those slides, but it will allow you to use that as a virtual background. The occasions when I have done a presentation with PowerPoint in the background, I've designed the PowerPoint deliberately in such a way that there's no important information in the bottom right hand corner, because that's where I'm going to be. Now I'm not able to monitor the questions, Okay, right. So we've got some questions over here, which I'm now. How do you put yourself in the corner of the slideshow like this? Right. I've got some software on my computer called OBS Studio, and I'm driving OBS Studio with a whole series of scenes that I've set up, and each of those scenes I can compose as I wish, and so that is how I have set up various different scenes. Some of those scenes I'm switching to my second webcam. Some of those scenes I'm sharing my screen. Some of those scenes I'm superimposing myself against the PowerPoint background. I'm intending to do a training session for District 71 or 91, I've forgotten, on the use of OBS Studio in a few weeks' time. So maybe I need to do some updates around that. OBS Studio is some free software. It's a bit techy. It's something that you do need to spend some time understanding how to do it. But that's how I am doing it's not running at the moment, but when the PowerPoint was running, I had the PowerPoint presentation here. It's OBS Studio that's allowing me to do this. And does individual view or ghost monitor affect slide clarity resolution? No. So there's provided that your laptop has the power to drive two screens in reasonable resolution, there's not going to be any issue around the quality of the PowerPoint presentation when you share it over Zoom. Okay, so when we share our slideshow to look present, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
What PowerPoint version have you already answered this question by Lana? What PowerPoint version are we using that has
what am I using?
Similar
okay,
version, users.
Right. Okay. I subscribe to Microsoft 365. So Microsoft 365 is an annual payment to Bill Gates, and that means that I'm always running the latest version of all of the Office suite. So it doesn't actually have a version number. I mean, it has an internal version number, but it's simply it used to be called Office 365. It's now called Microsoft 365, and it means that I have like the latest. It's also a really good idea to regularly update Zoom, because Zoom keeps bringing out some really very neat features. One of the features, I'm trying to work out whether the host has got the latest version. So I'm gonna, yeah. Right, the sort of thing that you can do if you're running the latest version of Zoom is have two people highlighted on the screen. So we've got myself and Grace both highlighted. That also means that one of these screens could be the presenter and one of these screens could be the PowerPoint presentation running on a different computer. So I'm going to remove Grace now. Any other questions?
Okay, when we share our slideshow to look professional, isn't it best to have the slideshow already started so when you share, it's in the right mode?
Absolutely. And if you are running the PowerPoint presentation on a laptop full screen, it's a little difficult to do that because it occupies the full screen. And then it hides Zoom, so you can't then see Zoom. You can get around that by using Alt-Tab to task switch back to Zoom, and then you do your slide share. But if you've only got a laptop and you haven't got a headless ghost, then by running it windowed, you have it running already prior to doing your screen share. Any other questions?
No more questions on the thread, Kate.
Okay. So I've got to the point, the end of the PowerPoint over Zoom. The next session for me is even more technically complicated. Oh, no, there's a new question. It's just appeared. Let me see. Oh, I like that. Can two people, can they be side by side? So Teresa, the way that we ran the the group chat session, the panel session at the club officer training was by multiply highlighting different people. So the host, instead of just doing highlight, does add to highlight, add to highlight, add to highlight, and adds multiple people. So it's a very good way of running a panel session. You add the 4 people all in highlight, all on the screen, and then they can chat. And particularly if you've got large numbers of people on the call, they all just see the 2 people or the 4 people, and whether they're side by side or one above the other depends on how you've set your screen up. If you've got your screen wide enough, they'll appear side by side, and they will appear in a set of 4. So I'm going to set this up, randomly picking people here. So we now have a set of 4 people. Oh, I've picked all the young ladies in the randomly picked the young ladies. Oh, and yeah. So anyway, that's how we do that.
Kit Lana also mentioned that, of course, you can also like spotlight 6 people or more if you like to.
Yes, indeed. So yes, yes, you can do that. You can, if you're doing awards presentations, for example, or you're doing at the end of a contest, you're wanting to have all of the contestants on the screen. Yeah, that's a way to do that as well. Any other questions before I go for a little break, comfort break, and set myself up for the final session? It's even more technically complicated. I don't see anybody waving at me or saying anything, so it is 15:15. I would like to suggest we continue, come back in 10 minutes, and I'll kick off at 20 past. So that's 7 minutes time. Okay.
Let's take this opportunity to take a photo. Anyone who can open the video, please do open your video.
I think, yeah, okay.
So please, and I will take some photos. Anyone, please feel free. Tanu, are you there? So Pipat,
I think you might have been.
Video, and we will take some photos only when you can. So, okay.
I'm going to remove my spotlight so that.
Ready, Kit? Okay.
Yeah.
Ready? 1, 2. One more. 1, 2.
Grace, hang on. I'm going to do a screenshot so that it looks rather nicer.
Yes,
right.
Please do.
Okay. Okay, so that's 1, and I'm going to count down. So ready, smiling at the camera. 3, 2, 1,